Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech, and in this video, I'll be unboxing the Infinix S5. Now this is the box and this is the latest phone from Infinix in their S lineup, where the S usually stands for their selfie camera. This is also the first phone from Infinix to come with a punch hole design. Here's a quick preview of that, and this is also one of the first few phones to have a punch hole design in this price segment. Infinix has launched this phone exclusively online on flipkart.com, and it's available only in one variant with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, and it's priced at 9,000 rupees. Infinix will also be launching a newer variant in November with either 3GB of RAM or 6GB of RAM. It's available in three colors: Quetzal Cyan, Violet and Nebula Black, and we have the cyan color. So guys, this is the box packaging, this is the box design. It looks pretty similar to other Infinix phones. And on the back we have some of the highlighting features, which I'll talk more about in a second. So for now, let's just get on with the unboxing. Now let's open it up. Once we open the box, we have the phone itself. Let me just put that aside. I had a weird opening. Next we have a SIM card ejector, micro USB charging cable, and a regular 10 watts power adapter. Next we have some documentation, and finally a hard TPU case. Next we have a soft silicone case, and finally a free screen guard that comes inside the box. So guys, these are all the contents of the box. Now let me just put everything aside and come back to the phone. So guys, here's the phone. On the front we have a sticker with 4 of its highlighting features. That's mainly its display, 32 megapixel selfie camera, quad camera setup on the back, and a 4000 mAh battery. Let me just remove that. Now this is how the phone looks on the front. Now on the back we have a sticker with IMEI number information and some other stuff. Let me just remove that as well. So guys, this is how the phone looks on the back, and this is how it looks on the front with that punch hole design. Now let's have a physical overview. On the back, this phone has a 3D curved fiberglass with a pretty cool pattern going on underneath it. It's not too fancy like the Realme phones, but does look pretty cool. At the top we have the camera module with a quad camera setup, followed by a quad LED flash and an engraving that says AI quad camera. Beside that we have the fingerprint scanner with a nice matte finish. Below that we have the Infinix branding. Finally at the bottom it says S, designed by Infinix. Now on the front we get that massive display with a punch hole design, and above the display we have the earpiece, and below the display it's completely plain with a slightly larger chin. As for the sides, on the right side we have the power and volume button made of plastic. They are sufficiently elevated and have a nice clicky feel to them. At the top it is completely plain. On the left side it has a SIM card tray housing 2 nano SIM slots along with a dedicated SD card slot. Finally at the bottom we have the speaker grill, followed by the micro USB charging port, primary microphone, and the 3.5mm audio jack. Now this phone has a thickness of 7.9mm and weighs 178 grams. Initial impressions, phone doesn't feel all that thick, and in hand it doesn't feel all that heavy either. Unless you clearly say it is 180 grams, no one's gonna notice the difference either. Now let's try out this case. Now this is how the phone looks with the case on. It is a raised lip for the camera module, so whenever you place your phone directly on its back, camera module is still very well protected. And as for the front, there's a tiny bit of raised lip, but that's almost negligible. So when it comes to the display, there's almost no protection. Even with the case on, buttons are nice and clickable, and the case has got all the required cutouts, so that's pretty good. Overall, it's a pretty good case, but if you want some better drop protection, get a better one. Now these are the complete specifications. On the rear, this phone has a quad camera setup with a 16 megapixel primary camera with f1.8 aperture. That's followed by a 5 megapixel wide angle camera with 114 degree field of view. This camera also acts like a macro lens. Next we have a 2 megapixel depth sensor for taking portrait shots, and finally we have a low light sensor for the fourth camera. For selfies, it has a 32 megapixel camera with f2.0 aperture. On the front it has a 6.6 inch IPS display with HD plus resolution with 20:9 aspect ratio and 480 nits of brightness. Under the hood it sports a MediaTek Helio P22 processor with PowerVR GE8320 GPU with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. Right out of the box, it will be running XOS 5.5 Cheetah based on Android 9, that's Android Pie. Finally, powering this device is a 4000 mAh battery. So guys, those were the specifications. Now let me turn on the phone and set it up and come back to you in a second. So guys, this is how the phone looks once we set it up and turn it on. Once we turn it on and set it up. This is the default launcher. These are the apps that are on your home screen. And first impressions, it doesn't look like there's an app drawer, but you can do a swipe up gesture to pull up the app drawer. Now these are all the apps that come pre-installed. There is a bit of bloatware, but you can uninstall any of these applications that you don't use. So that's a pretty good thing. Right out of the box, out of that 4 GB of RAM, we get about 1.2 or 1.3 GB of RAM free. Now let's check out the storage information. Out of that 64 GB of space, we get about 53 GB of space for our user apps and user data, which is more than sufficient. If you still need more space, it also has a dedicated SD card slot. By the way guys, now we can clearly see that punch hole design, and the punch hole itself is quite small. Now here's a closer look. Bezel all around the camera is quite small. Now this punch hole design is not comparable with the Samsung phones, but it's definitely quite small and way better than the Motorola phone, that's the Motorola One Action, which had huge bezels around the camera. So overall in terms of design, especially that punch hole design, it looks pretty cool. And if you have noticed, this phone is abnormally long because of that 20:9 aspect ratio. Now let's check out the about page. So this phone is running XOS version 5.5 Cheetah based on Android 9, that's Android Pie. And here we have the information. And right out of the box, it has the August security patch. Just so you know, Infinix and Techno phones receive regular software and security updates, unlike most of the phones out there. So with these phones, you really don't have to worry about updates and security patches. Now this is the camera interface with the toggle at the center. By default, we are using the primary camera. Now if you switch to the center toggle, we are switching to the wide angle camera. Now the first toggle is for the macro mode. Now if we go to the video recording mode, we can record video with the primary camera, even with the wide angle lens and even in the macro mode. So that's pretty cool, and we can only record video at a maximum of 1080p at 30 fps. Now if we go to the right side, we have the regular beauty mode followed by the bokeh mode, that's portrait mode for the rear camera. Next we have AR stickers and panorama mode. Now on this phone we also have Google Lens integration. So if you click this button, it takes us to the Google Lens where we can search for anything by just pointing your camera at it. And here's a quick preview. There you have it, we got exact match right from Google. So here's that toy, and that's the original one. So that's a quick preview of Google Lens. Now let's switch to the front camera. And as you have seen, the moment we switched to the front camera, we saw a nice animation near the punch hole design, and there's still an animation or a glowing ring around the front camera which looks pretty cool. And initial impressions, front camera is really good. Like exposure control is a bit off, but still it is way better than most phones in this price segment. Now by default it takes us to the beauty mode, and we also have AI camera mode, that's for selfies. Next we have video recording, and we can record video at a maximum of 1080p. Next on the right side we have probably portrait mode, that's for portrait selfies. Next we have AR shot, and these are the kind of funny pictures that we can take using this AR stickers. And here's another one. Next we have wide selfie, where you can just take a selfie and twist your phone left and right to get a wider selfie. So guys, that's the camera interface, and now these are some sample shots. Now the main highlight for this phone is its 32 megapixel selfie camera. Let me know if you want to see a camera comparison between this phone, let's say Redmi Note 8 Pro. Let me know if you're interested by commenting below this video. Now let's see the speaker loudness. So guys, speaker on this phone is sufficiently loud for media consumption, ringtones and alarms. Now let's test the fingerprint scanner. I've already set it up, so here we go. Fingerprint scanner is super fast. Not comparable with the Oppo and Vivo phones, but still pretty fast, probably the second or third best out there. And it just takes a split second to unlock the phone. So that's pretty good. Now let's test the face unlock feature. As usual, I've already set it up. Even the face unlock seems to be working really well. It's not super fast, once again not as fast as the Oppo and Vivo phones. I can still clearly see the lock screen, but still it is pretty fast. Now let's test it in low lighting conditions. Even in low lighting conditions, it is pretty fast. Now let's test it in complete darkness. Now there are no lights in the room, and here we go. Even in complete darkness, it is working really well. So that's really surprising. So guys, that was face unlock feature. Now before I conclude, these are the Antutu benchmark scores. For some reason, Geekbench was not working on this phone. So guys, this is the Infinix S5. Honestly, I was pretty bored looking at all the same phones with a dewdrop notch or a dot notch and nothing new under 10,000 rupees or under 15,000 rupees price segment. But this phone is pretty different. It's got this punch hole design, which is actually pretty good looking. It's not as ugly as the one on the Motorola One Action, and even though it has this odd 20:9 aspect ratio, it still doesn't feel all that long or weird. It's still pretty normal. Rear cameras aren't that great, but selfies are pretty good. So guys, if you're looking for a phone under 10,000 rupees with a punch hole design, pretty sleek form factor and good software optimization, then you can definitely consider the Infinix S5. So guys, what do you think about this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description. It always helps the channel. If you want us to make any specific video, tweet out to us with the hashtag AskGreedyTech on Twitter and we will try to make it as soon as possible. I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech signing off. Have a nice day.